Abraham finally has the son that was promised to him by God through Sarah. Isaac has been born, and Ishmael, Abraham's other son, has been forced into exile. The test now lays before Abraham. The Lord has asked him to do something. Will Abraham do as the Lord commands, or will Abraham fail? Let's find out. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Tally Talks Bible. Today is going to be part 4 of the Abraham story. A test has been laid out before Abraham by God. We're going to journey in to see what this test is all about. And it involves Isaac, his new son, through his wife Sarah. So I'm going to jump right into it, and let's see what happens. This is going to be chapter 22 in Genesis. Abraham's tested. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain. I will show you." Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey, while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you." Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father." "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and the wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the 2 of them went on together. So here, the Lord has asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. Now, child sacrifice isn't uncommon in this time. I mean, there are people, groups all around the region sacrificing all kinds of things, children, animals, harming themselves. It's not uncommon. But what's uncommon is, so far, there's been nowhere in here where the Lord has asked for a human sacrifice. So this is a little bit it's out of character for the Lord. And there's two things here. I've come to a different, conclusion on what the actual test here is. I was listening to the Bible Project, which I fully recommend anybody and everybody to check out. It is a great tool and has helped me out a lot. But I was listening to the podcast, and they had a guest on there that had a different view on this, and I feel like I kind of agree with their view. It's changed my opinion on this story. I'll get to that here in just a second. So we're going to continue on verse 9. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on the top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up there in the thicket. He saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." So there, it's pretty much what a lot of people think, cut and dry. The Lord was testing Abraham to see if he would sacrifice his son, his only son, which, well, as we know, it's not his only son, but it's his only God-given son. Because the son he had through Hagar, Ishmael, that was something that he and Sarah, they did what was right to them, what they thought was right in their own eyes, and they took it upon themselves to try to have a son without the aid of the Lord. And we see what's happened. Now Hagar and Ishmael have both been exiled. But the Lord is still providing a blessing upon Ishmael, even though his conception was through immoral values. But as I was saying before, there's not been any instant where the Lord has asked for a human sacrifice. And if you read on, there's not any other instance in the Bible either that there's a human sacrifice. The Lord has never called out to someone else, hey, sacrifice this child in my name. That has not happened. So what I feel like here, and what I've heard and kind of like dug more deep into, is the whole test was actually to see if Abraham would stand up to the Lord to see his true character. Think about when the Lord was about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham was there pleading, saying, hey, if there's just this many righteous people there, why would you destroy it? Your people are there. Why would you destroy it if you have, so many righteous people there? And he kept going and going. I feel like the Lord wanted Abraham to say, this isn't like you. I mean, why would you do this? The Lord wanted Abraham to see his true character, if that makes sense. So that's what I think the test is about. A lot of people think it's cut and dry, that the Lord is just testing Abraham to see if he would go through with, sacrificing his own son in his name as a fear. Like it says, I now know that you fear the Lord, for you will, take the life of your only son. But I think there's a deeper hidden meaning behind all that. I'm going to continue on here in verse 15, still in chapter 22. And it says, the angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sands on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offsprings, all nations on the earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me. Then Abraham returned to his servant, and they set off together for Beersheba, and Abraham stayed in Beersheba. So even though I feel like it's a different meaning here, God is still saying, hey, you did what I asked. I told you to go do this, you did it. Because you did it, you obeyed what I said anyway. You didn't question me. You're still going to be blessed. He's still telling him that, your descendants will be many, which has been stated before in previous text. So he just basically here, the Lord is saying, hey, my covenant to you still stands. And this is what's going to happen. You're going to have numerous descendants. So now we're going to talk about Nahor's sons. It says, sometime later, Abraham was told, Milcah is also a mother. She has borne sons to your brother Nahor. Who's the firstborn? Buz, his brother, Camil, the father of Abram, and Kez, Hasso, Pildash, Jiltuf, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. Milcah bore these 8 sons to Abraham's brother Nahor. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also had sons, Tibah, Gamma, Tarhash, and Makkah. A lot of times when it just throws this little thing in here. Now, if you remember Milcah, these are relatives of Abraham that he left behind. So this is going to be, it's throwing this in here just as a build-up to something that's coming up later. So you're not just like, well, who is this person? Where do they come from? Now, there are some things like, Melchizedek. We don't know. He was just there, giving praise up to God Most High. We don't know exactly where he came from. He was just there. So now we're going to go into the chapter 23. And this is going to be dealing more with Sarah in her life. And it says, Sarah lived to be 127 years old. She died at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. Then Abraham rose from beside his dead wife and spoke to the Hittites. He said, I am a foreigner and stranger among you. Sell me some property for a burial site. here so I can bury my dead." The Hittites replied to Abraham, "Sir, listen to us. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will refuse you his tomb for burying your dead." Then Abraham rose and bowed down before the people of the land, the Hittites. He said to them, "If you are willing to let me bury my dead, then listen to me and to my intercede for Ephron, son of Zor, on my behalf. So he will sell me the cave of Machpelah, Machpelah, which belongs to him and is at the end of his field. Ask him to sell it to me for the full price as a burial site among you." So now Sarah has died. It was talking about how she lived to be so old. And Abraham is wanting to do the right thing and purchase some land, an area, in order to bury his wife. And these people here, just they recognize him as like, "Hey, you're such a great man. You can have this. We'll give you a fine tomb." But Abraham doesn't want that. That's not what he wants for his wife. So he's asking, "Hey, sell this to me for the full price, whatever it is, and it's yours, so I can bury my wife." And it says, Ephron the Hittite was sitting among his people, and he replied to Abraham, in the hearing of all the Hittites who had come to the gate of his city, "No, my lord," he said, "listen to me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the presence of my people. Bury your dead." Again Abraham bowed down before the people of the land, and he said to Ephron, in their hearing, "Listen to me, if you will. I will pay the price of the field. Accept it from me so I can bury my dead there." Ephron answered Abraham, "Listen to me, my lord. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. But what is that between you and me? Bury your dead." Abraham agreed to Ephron's terms and weighed out for him the price he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver, according to the weight current among the merchants. So Ephron's field in Machpelah, near Mamre, both the field and the cave in it, and all the trees within the borders of the field, was deeded to Abraham as his property in the presence of the Hittites who had come to the gate of the city. Afterwards, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, which is at Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave in it were deeded to Abraham by the Hittites as a burial site. So they basically kept hounding him, saying, "No, we'll give it to you. We'll give it to you." But Abraham was steadfast, like, "No, I will pay you for it." And I don't know if it could have been like a favor thing. He didn't want to owe them, kind of like how, you know, in the past people were like, "Hey, we'll give you this, we'll give you that." He didn't want to owe people anything. So I think that's why he was so steadfast on, let's do this right. Let me pay for it. So this next chapter is going to be talking about Isaac, and we haven't really heard much about Isaac since, the whole, sacrifice. But he's getting older now, and it's time for him to find a wife. So some time has passed, obviously, since Sarah's death and the whole sacrificial thing. So it says Abraham was now very old, and the Lord had blessed him in every way. He said to the senior servant in his household, the one in charge of all that he had, "Put your hand under my thigh. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of Canaanites, among whom I am living, but will go to my country and my own relatives and get a wife for my son Isaac." Then the servant asked him, "What if the woman is unwilling to come back with me to this land? Shall I then take your son back to the country you came from?" "Make sure that you do not take my son back there," Abraham said. "The Lord, the God of heaven, who brought me out of my father's household and my native land, and who spoke to me and promised me an oath, saying, 'To your offspring I will give this land.' He will send his angel before you so that you can get a wife for my son from there. If the woman is unwilling to come back with you, then you will be released from this oath of mine. Only do not take my son back there." So the servant put his hand underneath the thigh of his master Abraham and swore an oath to him concerning this matter. Then the servant left, taking with him 10 of his master's camels, loaded with all kinds of good things from his master. He set out for Aram, Naharaim, and made his way to the town of Nahor. So Abraham doesn't want his son to have a wife from the Canaanites in the area that they live in, because the Canaanites are not known for being godly people, good people. And again, this is a thing at this time. They wanted to have people within, like their relatives, their people they were close with. So this is why they're wanting him to go back and find a wife from where Abraham came from. He wants Isaac to have a wife from his relatives. And that wasn't uncommon back then. It sounds a little strange now, but this is ancient text. This was a very long time ago. So Abraham has now sent this servant out to find a wife for Isaac. So let's see what happens. He had the camels kneel down near the well outside the town. It was toward evening, the time the woman got out to draw water. Then he prayed, Lord God of my master Abraham, make me successful today, and show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I am standing beside this spring, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. May it be that when I say to a young woman, please let down your jar that I may have a drink, and she said, drink, and I'll water your camels too. Let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. Before he had finished praying, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder. She was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, who was the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. The woman was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had ever slept with her. She went down to the spring, filled the jar, and came up again. The servant hurried to meet her and said, please, give me a little water from your jar. Drink, my lord, she said, and quickly lowered the jar to her hands and gave him a drink. After she had given him a drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels too, until they have had enough to drink. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran back to the well to draw more water, and drew enough for all his camels. Without saying a word, the man watched her closely to learn whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took out a gold nose ring weighing a beka, and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 shekels. Then he asked, whose daughter are you? Please tell me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? She answered him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son that Milcah bore to Nahor. And she added, we have plenty of straw and fodder, as well as a room for you to spend the night. Then the men bowed down and worshipped the Lord, saying, Praise be to the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not abandoned his kindness and faithfulness to my master. As for me, the Lord had led me on the journey to the house of my master's relatives. The young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things. Now Rebekah had a brother named Laban, and he hurried out to the man at the spring. As soon as he had seen the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms, he had heard Rebekah tell what the man said to her. He went out to the man and found him standing by the camels near the spring. Come, you who are blessed by the Lord, he said. Why are you standing out here? I have prepared the house and a place for the camels. So the man went to the house, and the camels were unloaded. Straw and fodder were brought for the camels, and water for him and his men to wash their feet. Then food was set before him, but he said, I will not eat until I have told you what I have to say. Tell us, Laban said. So he replied, I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has blessed my master abundantly, and he has become wealthy. He has given him sheep and cattle, silver and gold, male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. My master's wife Sarah has borne him a son in her old age, and he has given him everything he owns. And my master made me swear an oath and said, you must not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I live, but go to my father's family and to my own clan and get a wife for my son. Then I asked my master, what if the woman will not come back with me? He replied, the Lord before whom I have walked faithfully will send his angel with you and make your journey a success, so that you can get a wife for my son from my own clan and from my father's family. You will be released from my oath. If, when you go to my clan, they refuse to give her to you, then you will be released from my oath. When I came to the spring today, I said, Lord, God of my master Abraham, if you will please grant success to the journey on which I have come. See, I am standing beside the spring. If a young woman comes out to draw water, and I say to her, please let me drink a little water from your jar, and if she says to me, drink, and I will draw water for your camels too, let her be the one the Lord has chosen for my master's son. Before I finished praying in my heart, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder. She went down to the spring and drew water, and I said to her, "Please give me a drink." She quickly lowered her jar from the shoulder and said, "Drink, and I'll water your camels too." So I drank, and she watered the camels also. I asked her, "Whose daughter are you?" She said, "The daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him." This is a pretty long chapter, and if you notice, a lot of it is it's repeating. It's really breaking it down and telling you, hey, this is what is going on. It repeats. The Bible repeats a lot of stuff. And that's just how the Hebrew is. Hebrew is very repetitive in the wordings and everything like that. So it gets a little bothersome, when you translate it into English, you end up having to read the same thing over and over and over. That's why some stuff I don't want to bore you with. But this is kind of important because of what it leads up to. That's why I'm reading this. So I'm going to continue on. And it says, "Then I put the ring in her nose and the bracelets on her arms, and I bowed down and worshiped the Lord. I praised the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me on the right road to get the granddaughter of my master's brother for his son. Now, if you will show kindness and faithfulness to my master, tell me, and if not, tell me so. I may know which way to turn." Laban and Bethuel answered, "This is from the Lord. We can say nothing to you one way or the other. Here's Rebekah. Take her and go, and let her become the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has directed." When Abraham's servant heard what they said, he bowed down to the ground before the Lord. Then the servant brought out gold and silver jewelry and articles of clothing and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave costly gifts to her brother and to her mother. Then he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night there. When they got up the next morning, he said, "Send me on my way to my master." But her brother and her mother replied, "Let the young woman remain with us 10 days or so, then you may go." But he said to them, "Do not detain me. Now the Lord has granted success to my journey. Send me on my way so I may go to my master." Then they said, "Let's call the young woman and ask her about it." So they called Rebekah and asked her, "Will you go with this man?" "I will go," she said. So they sent their sister Rebekah on her way along with her nurse and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, "Our sister, may you increase to thousands upon thousands. May your offspring possess the cities of their enemies." Then Rebekah and her attendants got ready and mounted the camels and went back with the man. So the servants took Rebekah and left. Now Isaac had come from Beer Lahai Roi, for he was living in Negev. He went out to the field one evening to meditate, and as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Rebekah also looked up and saw Isaac. She got down from a camel and asked the servant, "Who is that man in the field coming to meet us?" "He is my master," the servant answered. She took her veil and covered her face. Then the servant told Isaac all he had done. Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother, Sarah, and he married Rebekah, so she became his wife. And he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Okay, so that's a mouthful. But they didn't just want to say, hey, uh, Isaac met Rebekah, they got married, and that's that. They wanted to, go in detail where Rebekah came from. She wasn't from the land; she came from Abraham's relatives. They wanted to make sure, and not insinuate, um, state basically that that's where his wife came from. So now I'm going to finish this up, and this will be the end of Abraham. Now after this, it's going to start talking about, excuse me, it's going to get more into Isaac and Isaac's children, and that's going to be, a 3 or 4 parter also. So we're really getting into the meat of stuff here in the Bible. And like I said, I'm going to call it out, but I want y'all to kind of pay attention to repetition with things that have already happened and that will happen. So this is actually chapter 25. I'm going to read about half of chapter 25, and then I will pick up back on chapter 25 in my next video, which will start talking more about Isaac. So now we're going to talk about the death of Abraham. Abraham had taken another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shurah. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. The descendants of Dedan were the Asherites, the Letushites, and Limites. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Anak, Abidah, and Elidah. All these were descendants of Keturah. Abraham left everything he owned to Isaac, but while he was still living, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them away from his son Isaac to the land of the east. Abraham lived 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last and died at a good old age, an old man and full of his years, and he was gathered to his people. His son Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zor, the Hittite. The field of Abraham had the field that Abraham had bought from the Hittites. There, Abraham was buried with his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his sons Isaac, who then lived near Beer Lahai-roi. So, if you notice, it's saying here that both Isaac and Ishmael came back to bury their father. And we already know that Ishmael's been blessed, Isaac's been blessed, but now it's stating that God blessed Isaac even further. Now, this next little section is going to talk about the sons of Ishmael just for a minute. It just threw this in there for just context. This is the account of the family line of Abraham's son Ishmael, whom Sarah's slave Hagar the Egyptian bore to Abraham. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael listed in the order of their birth. Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael, Kedar, Adbeel, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. These were the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names of the 12 tribal rulers according to their settlements and camps. Ishmael lived 137 years. He breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. His descendants settled in the area of Havilah to Shur and near the eastern border of Egypt, as you go toward Ashur, and they lived in hostility toward all the tribes related to them. So that just kind of like was laying it down. Hey, these are descendants. They're going to pop back up later on down the road. But like I said, that's going to close out the Abraham story. The next videos I'll be doing will be over Isaac and what's going on with him and his sons. I just want to thank everybody for your time and your support. And as always, God bless.